coming up in all angles. Will the new Dogs Act have more teeth?
Because it's not the first time dog attack people and bite them. And there's nothing come out yet, so it's the right time now.
Should breeds like pit bulls be banned?
With the high crime rate in the country, I believe that everyone has the right to protect.
And thank you so much for staying with us. So joining us in the program, we're going to be talking to the Justice Minister, Delroy Chuck. Also with us, the Managing Director of the Jamaica Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Pamela Lawson, and Dr. Julian Small is President of the Jamaica Veterinary Medical Association. Just before we go to them, though, our producer Bashan Brown has this overview.
July 2011, a 58-year-old woman killed by dogs in St. Catherine. In December 2012, a 2-year-old in St. Catherine was killed by dogs and her sister seriously injured. In January 2014, a 3-year-old boy lost an eye after being mauled by a dog in St. Anne. Also in January 2014, an 18-year-old St. Catherine woman hospitalized following a dog attack. In February 2016, a 56-year-old man died after he was attacked by dogs near Hagley Park Road, St. Andrew. In August 2018, 66-year-old Whittington Cole of Hampton Green, Spanish Town, St. Catherine, died after being severely bitten by vicious dogs. Then Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw reacted with this message.
I want to start by saying to all owners of dogs, whether they are pit bulls or Rottweilers or any other type of dogs, please, for God's sake, take responsibility for your animals.
By September 2019, the nation was rocked by news that a teacher had been mauled by dogs in Cooper's Hill, St. Andrew. Delroy Foster was first on the scene after he heard loud screams.
I call somebody, and when I get there, I see her on the floor. The dog, they are around her, 4 of them, biting her up. While getting out the car now, for try to go and assist the lady while the dog was licking the lady wound now, licking up the blood off the lady now. So get to the dog them now. We have to rush out the car and rush in back the car because we couldn't come out because the dog them was so bad and mad.
In October 2019, another dog attack in Lauriston, St. Catherine. Not 1 or 2 but 4 dogs attacked an injured residents.
I was riding past the road the dogs live in, and I just see 3 dogs come at me, and I was so afraid. I'm just jump off my bicycle and run going to the shop nearby.
One of the dogs jump up now, and I hold that one that jumped now in my right hand. Then the second one that attacked me now was in my left hand. That is when I could maneuver the 2 of them. Maneuver the 2 of them now, them a wiggle and a flash and thing now. That's when now 2 more dogs run out now. The third one was the one that bit me on my testicles. When the third one bit me on my testicles now, the pain that reached me now, I had to let go the 2 dogs them now and try to get the one that bit me on the testicles off. The 4th one now run, and the 4th one was this one that bite me on my hand.
No, it's not a pharmacy. These are actually some of the prescribed drugs Wesley Daly has been taking since January 22, 2018, when he was bitten by his landlady's dog. Mainly pain medication. He said he spent over $500,000 on medical bills.
As I opened the gate, I heard a sound from the rear of the house, and that's when I turned around. When I turned around, I was face to face with my landlady's dog. I panicked for a second. I absolutely did not know what to do, right? I tried to jump the gate, and I had a fall, and the dog bit me on my right leg.
When we spoke to him late last year, he told us he was not able to work or go to school. He was studying in Runaway Bay, St. Anne.
I would not be able to travel to Runaway Bay unless I'm traveling in an ambulance. I would have to lay on my back because I could not do the sitting in a vehicle.
Of these 9 cases, 6 involved the pit bulls, 1 involved the Rottweilers, and the others involved mongrels. Within the past few days, renewed concerns about bad dogs. A young boy mauled by dogs in St. Anne remains in hospital. The attack happened on the weekend in St. Tudeca, Alexandra.
Look at my child. My child has gone. My child cannot put on clothes. This is sickening.
The frequent dog attacks led to calls for the outdated 1877 Dogs Liability for Injuries Act to be given more teeth. A new law, the Dogs Liabilities for Attacks Act, was passed in the lower house of Parliament on Tuesday. It will now go to the Senate for consideration. It repeals the old act and introduces criminal liability for persons whose dogs attack or injure others. The bill states that where a dog attacks an individual in any place other than the premises where the dog is kept or permitted to live or remain, the owner of the dog commits an offense. It also says a person who commits an offense under the Act shall be liable upon conviction before a parish court to a fine not exceeding $3 million or in default of payment of the fine, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years in any case where the attack results in injury to an individual. In any case where the attack results in the death of or debilitating injury to an individual, the Act states that the person shall be liable upon conviction before a circuit court to a fine or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years. Discussions about dangerous dogs have also been taking place around the world, and in the Caribbean, Britain became one of the first countries to ban certain breeds of dogs with the 1991 Dangerous Dogs Act. In the Caribbean, Trinidad also moved to ban the importation and breeding of certain dogs, also under the Dangerous Dogs Act. Pit bulls are on the list of dangerous dogs in Trinidad. Vashon Brown for All Angles.
And thank you so much for that, Vashon. And let me come to our guest. Now, let me pick up on that issue that Vashon mentioned. Now, I know that whole discussion about banning breeds is something that has been talked about for years. I know the animal experts don't agree. But Mr. Justice Minister, let me come to you first, because it's not in the bill that was just passed in the lower house. It wasn't in the draft. So tell me, what made you decide not to have that included? Especially when you look at those stories and see how many of them, for instance, involve pit bulls. And some people have been saying pit bulls should be banned or should be subject to some special regime. Tell me why you decided not to go that route.
Dion, well, welcome to your viewers. And I'm very happy to join you. It's so nice to be able to do it from Zoom, from my home. May I just say that it's not that we are not going to ban certain types of ferocious dogs. The truth of the matter is that this legislation has been some time in coming, and we started out looking at a broad slew of legislation which could have included the prohibition, restriction, and banning of certain breeds of dogs.
I'm so sorry. I'm not hearing you very well. Repeat that for me, Mr. Minister.
I said the truth of the matter is that we thought of a slew of legislations which would have included the prohibition, restriction, and banning of certain types of dogs. It would really be a comprehensive piece of legislation, but because of the urgency, in my view, a couple of years ago, of doing something, especially to send the right signal to dog owners that they must take responsibility. We took the view to have a limited legislation to repeal Liabilities for Injuries Act 1877 and update that particular piece of legislation. And so what we passed in the House yesterday was a limited piece of legislation dealing with attacks by dogs and the civil and criminal liability that will be incurred by dog owners if their dogs cause injury to innocent bystanders. The other piece of legislation to license, register, restrict, prohibit, stay, impound dogs. We're presently working and that those legislations beyond. So those legislations will be forthcoming in due course.
Okay, well, let me bring in the others here because, as I said, I know there has been consistent advocacy against the idea of banning specific breeds. Dr. Small, let me start with you. Is that, in fact, your position, that breeds such as pit bulls shouldn't be banned?
Good evening, everyone, to Dion and listeners and my fellow panelists. Well, my position is that we have to be very cautious when we talk about banning certain breeds. I think with any decision that we make, it has to be about not just our emotions, but it also has to be about the science behind it. So there has to be a standard definition for what is a dangerous breed. And we have to recognize that dogs inherently can be dangerous. It's not just about the breed, it is about the way the dog is trained and raised and socialized by the owner. So just because one dog is larger than another dog doesn't mean that the smaller dogs can't be dangerous. Because I can tell you from my experience as a clinician that when I go to treat animals, it's a lot of the smaller breeds that are far more vicious. And that there is a stereotype in our society that is associated with pit bulls. So, I mean, yes, you do have pit bulls that are aggressive, but you do have pit bulls that are very sweet and very gentle. And at the end of the day, we really have to hold owners responsible and ensure that the persons that own these dogs are responsible persons.
All right, I'll take your word for it. I've never seen a pit bull that looks sweet and gentle, but you're the expert. I'll take your word for it. But tell me though, because as I said to Mr. Chuck, when you look at that story Vashan did, and so many of the stories you were seeing over and over and over, they were saying pit bulls were the ones who attacked, pit bulls attack, pit bulls attack. So why be cautious? Why not just look at that and say, okay, here's the evidence. Sure, other dogs are attacking, but they certainly seem to be in the preponderance of the dogs attacking.
Well, I mean, I will let Mrs. Lawson speak to some of the facts as to whether some of the attacks that were purported to involve pit bulls actually did, because oftentimes that is not the case. And then the other thing that you do have to bear in mind is that when we're talking about dog attacks, it also has to do with what is reported. So a lot of persons are not going to report if a mongrel bit them, especially if it's not a debilitating injury. But just like what happened, we do have instances of animals that are straying, that are moving around in packs, that are not pit bulls, that are also causing very bad attacks, but these things are underreported. So again, it really takes a lot of science, a lot of consulting all the stakeholders that are relevant before any legislation is put in place, so that we can ensure that we are protecting not just the welfare of humans, but also the welfare of our animals.
All right, I tell you what, I'm at break, so let me go to break. We'll come back, we'll ask Mrs. Lawson about that issue. Should pit bulls be banned or other breeds that are seen as similarly dangerous? And then we also want to talk a little bit about the new act that's being passed, that's being taken through Parliament, and the issue of stray dogs as well. Remember, you can tweet along with us. Our hashtag is TVJ. All angles. Stay tuned. We soon come.